brought one friend. No, I brought two friends, I think.
Mhm.
And one friend actually did kind of study the Bible for a minute, and she
Mhm.
was like, no. So, and that was it for me.
A couple of other friends from came with me,
Mhm.
um, and and pretty quickly backed away.
Right.
We're like, "Oh, no, thank you."
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
yeah. And like, I didn't have a lot of friends anyway. So I'm like, I was a very small pool to choose from. But
yeah,
yeah.
and then very quickly, my entire social group became people from church.
Yeah. So I'm like, how am I supposed to invite somebody? I don't even know anybody
Yeah,
who's not already a part of it.
yep,
It doesn't make any
so
sense.
I know.
There's so much like designed to create conflict within
Yes,
each person.
yep,
And it
just
comes
to keep
off
you off balance.
mhm. That's so weird that we said the same thing. Why are we uh qualified to have this to do this?
Do you wanna start?
I can start and actually maybe it'll just flow into our memories actually. Because so I remember going to the Methodist church and then I
Mhm,
remember we went to Highlands.
mhm.
And then I remember and I was how old was I? You said like I must have been like 7.
You must have been I think okay, so I think I think that the first time we went to the Atlanta Highlands Church of Christ had to have been and I didn't check with mom, I should have, but I think it had to have been in February of 1987 because I was in 7th grade. It was right before I turned 12.
Okay.
So I was 11, which means you would have been
February,
8
March.
or 9.
Yeah. Yeah. So young.
Yeah.
And then from there, and I was reading a little bit last night, and I think it was just the summer of 1987 when the
Yes.
Boston movement came in
Mhm.
and like devoured Atlanta Highlands.
Reconstructed
Yeah, it was a
Atlanta.
reconstruction. Yeah. And then it was a whole thing of like going all the time and then being pressured to be baptized and then falling away and then coming back and being
Yes.
rebaptized and falling away. I'm like, I boosted their numbers quite a bit. And so finally for us, I think, but for me for sure, like the Henry Crete letter came out whenever like 2003. No,
It
2003.
was 2003 because actually it came out around the same time that I had Zach. And I remember my obstetrician
Right.
was in the church, and she told me at my one of my follow-up visits, she said, "Don't go to church. I don't want you to go to church for the next 6 weeks because things are crazy and you need to focus on healing." She was
Aw,
amazing.
that
Yes.
was nice.
Yes, so I missed all the excitement, but
That's why you weren't at
that's
the
why I was there at that.
Congress Center.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. I need to find somebody who was there besides Ethan to
Yes.
help me remember. But yeah, so after the Henry Crete letter and that crazy stuff happened, the big congregational what was it budget meeting, um, we both stayed. Like we went back. Like we went to midweek and we were.
Mhm.
I don't know that I thought it was going to change. I pretty much thought it wasn't going to change.
I think
But
I
it's
thought the same thing, but I wanted to give it a chance.
exactly. I want to give it a chance. But at that time, though, that's when it was like all of our critical thinking skills that we had that we weren't allowed to use
Mhm.
went into like hyperdrive.
Yes.
And I was picking everything apart. And after that, yeah, so probably 2003 is when this makes me shake.
Mm.
2003 or 2004, probably closer to 2003. I'm sure I didn't give it that much time. Do you remember?
I think
Oh no, yeah.
I think I might have hung on until early 2004, maybe. What I remember, the straw that broke the camel's back when I realized that this was not going to be the place for me was when, so we had all of these, Henry Crete letter came out, all heck broke loose. And then we had all of these, like I remember a lot of, or several midweek meetings
Yep.
where people, it was like an airing of the grievances. And then
I must have blocked that out.
and then I remember Dad going to a bunch of meeting with the men.
Yeah.
And basically what they decided was that the men were going to decide how things were going to go.
Oh, I remember that.
Do you remember that? And I remember talking to Dad and being like, that's not fair. I'm a married woman. I mean, at the time, I didn't even realize the depths of how crazy that was. I don't think, but I was just like, that's stupid because you're leaving out people like me. I'm an adult married woman, and my husband is not a member of the church. So how is my voice going to be heard?
Yep,
And Dad
I
was like,
remember that.
I'll communicate for you. It's like, no, sorry, that's not going to work. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yes. That I remember. And I don't know if I was out by then. I don't think I was.
I think we were all still going.
Because yes, I remember that being a thing, and I'm like, no man needs to speak for me.
No.
Like, I can speak for myself. You just don't want to listen, and that's your problem.
It is, and you're silencing at least half the congregation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's frustrating. It's like, whatever. We could do a whole thing on that too. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So yeah, that's nuts. I totally see. I've forgotten a lot of this stuff. It brings back memories.
Our involvement with the church, with the Atlanta Church of Christ, spanned from 1987 until 2000, the end of 2003, the beginning of 2004.
Yeah.
I mean, both of us left for different portions of that time,
Right.
but then came back. But mom and dad were
in it
involved the whole, mom was involved the whole time.
The whole stinking time.
Yeah.
Not happily all the time.
No.
All the time. And then dad jumped in at what, like 94?
Yeah, 93 or no, it was 93.
You're so smart. You are so sharp. Let me tell you.
I have lots of bad memories. I know because I started dating Larry in January of 94 and they flipped out.
That's so funny because mom said, she's told me multiple times that she prayed for us to marry people who were not in the church.
It doesn't surprise. I love her for that.
Me too. But I guess dad hadn't quite.
I don't know when mom was praying those prayers, but no, dad was. I mean, once they got their hooks in him, he was a true believer for a while.
And I was thinking about that too. And I'm like, did we talk about this? That he never saw Kip McKean. He never had experience with Kip McKean.
That's interesting. I wonder if he would have
been like that.
It would have given him pause.
He was like, that man's a snake kisser.
Yes.
Or he saw he's a snake kisser. He's going to snake kissers. And I was just like, that's rude. And I feel offended, but kind of offended. But like, this is weird. Very, very weird. But yeah, like, he was super not in favor of the church or the cult, whatever you want to call it.
Yes. For many, many years.
So when did you fall? Do you remember when you fell away?
So I fell away early in 1993 because I made it one semester in the campus ministry and then couldn't take it anymore and left.
Were you how old were you when you got baptized?
I was either 13 or had just turned 14.
Okay. What grade were you in?
I would have been 13, I think, because I think I started studying at the end of 8th grade. And then I got baptized in 9th grade.
Okay. And you made it from 9th grade all the way to college?
I made it from 9th grade, through it would have been winter quarter. So it would have been like January, February of 1993.
Wow. It's impressive.
Go me.
I know. High fives all around.
Yeah.
Why do you remember why you fell away? Why you fell away?
Because I got to the point where I couldn't measure up and I couldn't handle keeping up with the schedule anymore. And I was just like, I'm not good enough to do this and I can't handle it.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And then you came back.
So I came back. So I fell away. Spring of 93. I met Larry January of 94. We got married December of 95. I graduated from college December of 96. And then I think I went back summer of 96.
Okay.
And then I stayed until everything imploded.
Wow.
It's like 2004.
You got some good staying power. I was like, I'm in, I'm out.
So,
Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
I was going to ask, so why did you go back?
So I went back because the reason that I left initially was that it wasn't that I thought that the doctrine was wrong. I still really believed what I had been taught. I just couldn't do it anymore. I was exhausted and I was a nervous wreck all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't handle it. So I stopped going. And I got married and graduated from college. And that's such a crazy transitional time of your life. And
Yeah.
so it's just really a stressful time of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So still believing the doctrine,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm going to have to go back sometime. And I was already safely married. That's not the reason that I left, but I was like, that definitely weighed in favor. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's settled.
Right.
So I thought, you know what? I'm never going to be happy. I'm always going to be afraid that I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
And I'm not pleasing God
Right.
if I don't go back. So I better go back. So I
Yeah.
went back.
You go back and it's like so weird because like I kind of want to be here, but I kind of don't. It's like this weird, I know what I'm getting into at that point.
Yes, like I wanted to do the right thing, and I didn't know how much I could take and how long I could hold on.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So how old were you when you got baptized?
I have the hardest time. I think I must have been like 8th grade-ish. So that must have been like 91 or 92 for me. Like
Hmm.
90 or 91. And I remember because I I'm saying got married, got baptized the first time at the SEC.
Oh my gosh,
In
that's
front of
right.
all those people. Yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother thing. We're going brief today, right?
Yes.
That's a whole nother story. So that happened when I was a sophomore in high school. So like 2-ish years later,
Hmm.
I left. It's hard to remember. And then I think I went back right after graduating. So like 96-ish. I went back. And then 97-ish. No, it was more like 90. Hold on. I might have to edit this out because I need to think for a second. I should have written this down, but I didn't have time. So it was like 8th grade until my sophomore year. I was in. And then somewhere in my either the end of my sophomore year or the beginning of my junior year, I fell away. And that was until I graduated high school. So that was in like 96.
Hmm.
Then I went back. I can't I really have such a hard time remembering. But I went back. So after high school, I went back for like a year and a half or something in campus. And it was like, it was the worst. It was just the worst.
Hmm.
And so it must have been like 97, somewhere in mid 97. Wait, am I back already? In campus. And then I left and then I fell away again. Fell away again.
Yes.
And then that was like 97. And then somewhere around the end of like mid 98, I must have gone back and then I left shortly thereafter. I didn't last very long that time because I met Ethan in the fall of 99
Okay.
and I was out by then, but I think I was only out by like 2 months or something.
You went back briefly, you left again, you met Ethan.
Met Ethan, and we dated and we got married. So I met him fall of 99,
Mhm.
and we got married in May of 2002.
Okay.
And it was really shortly after. It was June that I went back
Oh, wow.
because I was like, I don't want to go to hell,
Mhm.
but I know that if I'm dating him or if we're engaged,
You
they're
have
gonna
to break
make
up.
me break up. I was
Mhm.
like, I have to wait until I get married. And he didn't know. And yeah, so like right after we got back from our honeymoon, it was very shortly after.
What did he do? Like, what was his reaction?
He hated it. He hated it. He hated it so much because it took up all my time. And he was like, "You were a different person." It's like, "I
Mhm.
knew you were, but
Mhm.
you thought, like I have my own will." But he was like,
Yes.
"And I would watch you, and it's like you're this totally different person, and I can't understand it." So it was frustrating to him. And then on top of that, I was sick and I was getting up super stinking early in the morning because I had to have my quiet time,
Mhm.
like really irritated with that, which made me even feel worse, like, because I'm like, and you don't understand and whatever, like I'm torn between God and my husband or something. I don't even know what it was, but that's
Yeah.
not how I felt. I didn't feel like I was torn between God and my husband. It was the church.
Mhm. Yes.
And so, and then I stayed until whatever, like 2004 after the Henry Crete letter.
Mhm.
But for me, the kind of the weirder thing as I think back over it is like with you, like I would leave, but it's not like I didn't believe what they taught. So, and when I was in high school, mom and dad made me go. So I
Mhm.
had fallen away.
Mhm.
Period of time, they made me go with them.
So dad was in church by then?
Yeah, because Kath had been
Oh,
born.
okay. Yes.
So yeah, so they made me go. And I sat with them and I hated it so much, and they made me go.
Yeah.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Sorry.
But it's, like, really weird because even though I wasn't, like, physically going, and I certainly didn't want to be there, the stress and the standards I had for myself and all of that stuff was still there, you know?
Mhm.
That I'm going to hell because I'm not baptized now, and
Yes.
also, like, everybody around here that I come in contact with, if they die tomorrow and I didn't share my faith with them because I was selfish and I fell away, they're going to hell and it's on me.
That was paralyzing for me.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's weird is 'cause it's like I left, I came back, I left, I came back, but in like my mind and my heart, I never left.
Mhm.
And I hated it at the same time, which is also so weird. Like it
Yes.
felt not right.
Yep.
So yeah, but I was like, I knew when we went out, poor Ethan, when we were dating, I knew
Mhm.
that I would be going back.
Really?
Oh, totally. Because I don't want to go to hell. Like, seriously, that was
Yep.
it. There was nothing else. No relationship that I had, no like authentic anything outside of wanting to be a part of the family. That was kind of weird. Like to have fallen away. And then like every birthday, there are freaking disciples everywhere in the
Everywhere.
house.
Yes.
And it's so uncomfortable because they like only want to talk to you about like church. There was no
Mhm.
connection. And I'm like, look, I see you. If you,
Yes.
oh, I'm taking this class. No, you're not. And if you are, I really don't care because what
Yes.
you're trying to do is weasel your way in so you can manipulate me. And
Yeah.
so that was weird. But yeah, that the wanting to belong in like wanting to be a part of the family was hard. But it's not like they disowned us when we fell away, but
No, I'm trying to think back. I don't really it's really interesting because I didn't feel like I wasn't part of the family during that time. Like, between falling away and getting married. There was a lot of turmoil during that time. But like I lived at home and I didn't like I felt like I was part of the family, but at the same time, like I remember probably within a couple weeks after leaving when I was a freshman in college, I went Tower Records in Buckhead
Okay. Okay.
um, for I think it actually was for a launch of one of U2's albums, I think. And I was like, it was such a fun night and I had such a great time and actually um, wound up winning the U2 box set, like their entire catalog.
Remember that.
Actually, my friend won it, but she was not a U2 fan, so she gave it to me, which was very nice of her. But because we stayed for the drawing, I was late getting home, and I never had a curfew,
Uh-huh.
but mom expected me home at a certain time. Dad was out of town, and I got home late. Um, Obviously, this was before cell phones. I didn't call, and
Uh-huh.
I got home, and mom was so upset, like worried, like
Yeah.
beside herself with worry. And she told me that she was so scared because she was worried that if anything happened to me while I was gone, like that night, that I was going to go to hell.
Yeah.
Like, so I didn't feel like part of the family, but also it was like I was definitely an outsider and they were very concerned about me.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what it was. It wasn't like I didn't feel like I was part of the family, but I definitely felt like an outsider.
Yeah.
But I always felt like an outsider. That was my other thing. Like,
Sorry,
I was
middle child.
like, I know I'm like middle child. Ha ha ha. I'm like, there's a little bit of truth to that, I think, but it's also my personality.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was thinking like leading up to whenever we went to Highlands, like I never really I felt like an outsider forever. Like I
Really?
just felt like an outsider. And I think that's part of what so I wanted to be in church because I wanted to belong, but I'm like, I didn't even belong there. And I wasn't even good enough to be there, which was really
Yes, that's
challenging.
tough.
Yeah.
Very. Yes.
So yeah. It's and even then, I get married, I come back, I get baptized, I'm still not good enough because my husband's not a disciple.
Mhm.
And then that is like all eyes are on you to convert your spouse.
It's true.
And I'm like, that's not happening. But
Yes. Ethan was like, that's definitely not
yeah,
happening.
I know him and that's not happening.
Yes. Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah. So
So do you remember? So I have a few memories of the very like what I think might have been the first few times that we went down to Atlanta Highlands. Like what I remember is so I was about 11 um in middle school living in Buford, Georgia, which at the time was just this tiny, boring little town out in the
yeah.
country. And we had been going to the Methodist church in Buford,
Yeah.
which I thought was a boring little church in the
Yes.
boring little town.
Yes.
And so so mom's doctor was a member of this church. He invited us to come, and dad must have been out of town. I
Yeah.
mean,
That's
he was
the only thing I can figure.
during that time.
Yeah.
So I don't think I remember the first time we visited the Highlands Church. I think my first memory is the day that mom was baptized
Hmm.
at the Highlands Church, which, and I'll have to check with her, but I think that was on her birthday
Yeah.
in 1987. So that would have been the winter of 87.
Yeah. That
And
feels
I don't remember really liking the church, except they did have good snacks.
I'm like, I showed up for the donut holes.
Yes. But I don't remember particularly liking the church, but I remember thinking that it was exciting because we got to go to downtown Atlanta all the time, which nobody that I knew ever did.
Right. Yeah.
So it was like exciting and different. And the church, like not so, a little bit Atlanta Highlands, like it was definitely more lively than the Methodist church.
Which wasn't hard.
Well, exactly. So that was, I found that exciting too. Do you remember anything about?
I remember the day mom got baptized because I
Mhm.
wanted to go in with her when she was changing and they wouldn't let me.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know who these people think they are. Not to tell
Mhm.
me I can't, like, I don't know you. And they were
Yes,
like standing guard at the door.
I remember that. Oh
And
my
I was
gosh,
like, this is not good.
this was very upsetting. Yeah.
It was like traumatizing
Yes.
because I was like really can like to mom, you know?
Yes.
And on top of that, I'm like, I don't even know how long we went to Highlands before she got baptized, but I didn't feel like I didn't know those people. That's what I knew. Like you, I don't trust you. I don't know you. I don't trust you.
Yes.
And I don't know what Frank was doing, but I remember feeling responsible for Frank
Mhm.
and also myself. Like,
Yes.
I mean, like, but and then the only other thing I remember really is the donut holes. Like, I don't remember any church services. I don't I don't remember anything else about, like, going to the church. I remember the parking lot.
That's weird, so do I. And I
That's
remember,
where I
like,
carried my
it was like
donut
a
hole.
the building was like a glass front, or there was a lot of glass. I remember
Yep.
that too.
I found a picture of it last night. It's now I think it's been converted into condos, but I don't remember much of that. Like, I don't remember any of it except for it's the thing I remember things and feelings and colors. Like, that's and so I
Mhm.
just remember it was lonely. But the Methodist church was lonely too. It
Yes.
just felt like sad and empty. And I will say, though, that whenever this makes me shake,
Mhm.
whenever we started going to the ICOC or we were recruited, it didn't feel that way. But I kind of wonder if it wasn't it what had it didn't have anything to do with the actual church cult situation and more with the fact that it was in hotels, so there were like other people there to fill that void.
That could be.
It's just because I'm like, I go to churches, and anytime I go to a church, it's like feels sad. Like it feels sad,
Mhm.
which I haven't been to a whole lot of churches after.
That experience, yes.
But so I wonder.
That's really interesting because I remember, like, my memories, like, I can picture certain experiences from that time in my life, and all the experiences that I can picture that are church related are very dark, like, the lighting,
Oh
if I
yeah,
like, it just is dark.
yes, yes. And that's like the Methodist church. Those memories aren't dark. They're
No,
like lonely, but it's like the creaking of the old wood floors is what I remember. You know,
yes, and the
like
way like, I remember the way it smelled.
yeah, exactly. The smell and how weird is it that I'm sitting in a Sunday school class with like all these people that I go to school with, and like they want you to like talk, like I'm like this is deep. I feel like this is very deep. Even when I was whatever age
Little,
I was,
yeah,
and I was like, I don't want to share with anybody, but certainly not with my classmates.
yes,
But the other thing was that I don't ever remember going to the ICOC when it wasn't like loud and buzzing.
that's true. Yeah,
So it was almost so overstimulating that I didn't really have time to process or feel anything.
mhm,
Yeah. And then
yeah,
I was just hungry. Like everything revolves around food. I don't know, but like I just remember being so hungry and getting in trouble for interrupting mom and asking when we can go home.
yep, I remember that too.
And I'm like, I wonder if she really enjoyed talking to those people. Was she really that into it or did she feel like she had to?
I'll have to ask her. That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. So overall, to sum it up, we were there when it started
Mhm.
and we were there when it imploded.
Yes, at least when phase 1 ended.
All right, phase one. And it was exciting whenever they'd be like, so Fox 5 is doing this this piece on us and it's spiritual pornography. And it's why can't I remember that word? The when people are mean to you word like
Persecution.
persecution. I need to write it down. I cannot ever remember that word. Like we're doing it right because we're being persecuted. Like, and I was like, ooh, this is exciting.
Yes, I thought the same thing.
Like I'm watching that. Like real. I don't know what pornography is, but that I'm watching.
Yes.
Like I was so young and so like but we'd all watch it.
Mhm.
Like, I remember sitting around and watching, there was like 2020,
Yes.
and we all sat around and watched it together and laughed. Oh, those people.
They don't know what they're talking about, and yes. And we're actually I remember Steve sat during a message, it must have been a congregational Sunday, right before all of that came out. He was, like, telling us what all the media tricks were for, the people that they wanted to cast in a good light. Pay attention literally to the lighting, and they've got
Angle.
plants behind them, the angle, and then, when if you pay attention when they're interviewing me and so, we're just against a white wall, and there's nothing in the
Yeah.
background, and the lighting's terrible, and
Yeah.
that was interesting. They knew we were gonna watch it,
They
and
needed,
they prepared us for it.
Mhm. Yeah. And I remember that too, because I don't know if it was the 2020 episode or which one it was, but they talked specifically about Kip's house and how big it was. And I remember them saying the house is on a hill and they took it from down below. So
Mhm.
the
So the angle makes it look so much bigger than it actually is.
yeah. And even then I was like, okay, but really? Come on.
Yes.
Like, yeah, but they like an answer for everything.
Mhm. It's true.
Most of it was your fault. If it could be your fault, it was your fault.
And I also remember so there was a Time magazine article about us, and I remember that the Time magazine article said that the church was unbesmirched by financial controversy, and I remember them, for some reason, it was like anything they could do, making fun of the word besmirched
Oh,
and, like, laughing it off.
there was a lot of that. Mocking, a lot of mocking
Yes.
of individuals and groups and
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Pretty interesting.
it was very much like, as long as everybody can stay feeling like they're better than everybody else,
Mhm.
nobody wants to face the reality.
It's true.